everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome back to another, no, it's not Monday. Wow, that was good. We're going to keep that one in because that's just real life. So speaking of real life, we're going to have a very real episode for you guys today. And this is kind of following on from the episode that I did a couple of weeks ago about birth trauma, and I was talking a little bit about miscarriages and abortions. If you haven't listened to that, I would really recommend listening to it. Even if you haven't given birth yet, you haven't had an abortion, you haven't had a miscarriage, it's something to be really, it's a really great episode to just help you to become aware of some things that are not talked about in normal modern medicine, and it's a little bit of an alternative kind of approach to things, like with most of my work, but it's really important because, you know, I was actually watching someone's, I need to do a whole episode on it, but I was watching someone's Instagram story the other day, and her husband were trying for 2 years to conceive, and they went through multiple rounds of IUI, and none of them were working. And so they eventually just went to IVF. And what's really sad, and of course, I don't fully know that situation, I don't know her, but what's really sad was that it was one of those situations that I've had many times before of unexplained infertility. All her tests were great, all of his tests were great. No one could figure out why she wasn't falling pregnant. And she now is finally pregnant through IVF, which I'm very happy for her about. But what also makes me sad is that I've had so many clients that have tried multiple different things. They have, you know, been trying to conceive for years. They're on their 5th round of like IUI or IVF or forced ovulation or whatever it is. And what's really sad is that they continue to not fall pregnant. Then they come to me. We figure out there's a bunch of trauma in their ovaries, boom, pregnant. I literally had one of my clients the other day. She's a one-on-one client. Her main goal with me was falling pregnant. Well, on our second session together, we did a big clearing. Then on our next session, the first thing that she said to me was 3 hours ago, she found out she was pregnant. And the timing, I feel goosebumps. The timing was like a week after our session, she ovulated, and then it all happened. And they were going through IUI, I'm pretty sure they were going through. And so of course it wasn't like fully natural, but they had been trying and trying even with IUI. I'm pretty sure it was IUI. And they weren't even being successful with that. And now they're pregnant. So why I'm sharing this with you is because there is so often so much shit that we carry in our body around motherhood, around what it means to be a mother these days, around stuff that we're holding on to from our mother, from our father, from our sisters, just anyone that is, you know, anyone that's been kind of giving us any stories around motherhood and what that means can really be held in our ovaries and in our womb and inhibiting implantation, because subconsciously it's like, I don't want to be a mom. And even though consciously you're like, no, I fucking do want to be a mom. I know that. And subconsciously there could be something blocking you. So make sure you listen to that episode because it was a really, really good one. So also just talk about birth trauma and that whole thing of how that can also be playing a role just in your sex life and creativity and libido and sex, etc. So what I didn't get into in the episode, because I was going on and on, which was full of information, but I was like, we need to cap this, was the postpartum. So I'm going to kind of go through a few things with this episode. Firstly, I'm going to go through some things that we often forget about the postpartum journey and why also there is such an increase in postpartum depression. And then I'm also going to go through what I am doing to set myself up well in advance for motherhood. Like we're talking, we don't want to start having kids till 2025 after we're married, but we're already setting ourselves up for being parents now, him included, I will say. So firstly, the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is postpartum. So that's often the part of the journey that women forget about the most. We forget the amount of nutrients that we need. We forget what is going to be needed of us. We don't even think about the changes that are going to occur. And we're so focused on the pregnancy period and getting pregnant that we forget about what our body's going to need postpartum. And to really quickly kind of paint this picture, so what can happen for a lot of women is those first few months or their whole pregnancy, they are so sick. They cannot eat really healthy food because they just want to puke after they eat it. And unfortunately, what's happening is their body's getting more and more depleted, obviously, because their baby is taking away all their nutrients. A key example is just in and of itself, your thyroid hormones. So if you don't know this, your baby literally takes half your thyroid, not like reaches its hand up and grabs half of it, but in terms of your thyroid hormones, it's literally taking half. So if you have a really shitty thyroid going into pregnancy, it's going to be even way worse coming out of pregnancy and in that postpartum period, right? Or if you are really depleted on, let's say, vitamin A, your baby's going to be taking all that it can of your vitamin A to feed itself, and your body's going to be giving that to your baby, and you're second to the baby. The baby is now first, and fueling and feeding the baby is first. So what happens is a lot of women, unfortunately, they've given birth, amazing, they're a mom, blah, 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 but their body is so fucking depleted. And then you have the anxiety, the depression, and all the other things that flow on, not just because of this huge change and the lack of support as we now don't have a fucking village to raise a child with us. Not only that, but the fact that our body is so deficient of nutrients. And when you think about it, a lot of women are falling pregnant, straight after coming off the pill or from coming off, from getting their IUD removed, and their gut health is destroyed. Their body isn't digesting nutrients and isn't absorbing nutrients and all of these things. And then you got a kid that's being formed in your body. So your body as the mom gets even more depleted, and there's nothing left of you after that birthing experience as you're going into postpartum. And now you're breastfeeding, and even more is being taken away from you. So for those of you that want to have a kid or you are pregnant, I want you to think about like giving yourself so much. Like I want you to think about filling your cup so that it's literally over fucking flowing with nutrients, right? With health, with energy, with vitality, so that if your cup just gets to the point where it's a little bit under the rim, you're still going to be okay. Because what's happening is most women, their cup isn't even full before falling pregnant. Their cup is like fucking nearly empty. And then they're in minus, like the cup ain't even there. Like we're down in the fucking ground. Like there's no cup even there because nothing to put in the cup, right? That's what then happens for a lot of women postpartum. So even if you were to think like your health, your exercise, your stress levels, or all the things that you're doing in your life right now, are they supportive of you having a baby growing inside of you right now? If not, can you start changing those things now? So for me and for my fiance, he laughs at me about this, but I'm like, we're going on a full fertility cleanse a year prior to falling pregnant. And it's more for him than me because I've been very, very healthy, like majority of my life. I'm fortunate that my parents were very health conscious as you were growing up. But not like, it was kind of like marketing health conscious, if that makes sense. But in the last 8 years, I've been very, very, very health conscious. And so I'm very confident that I'd be fine postpartum. But even still, as we're going through that journey of conceiving, I will be fucking double downing on my nutrients so that God forbid I can't, eat spinach and have eggs and all the things because I feel sick when I eat them, or I'm like vomiting because of morning sickness, just even looking at an egg. God forbid those things happen. I'm not worried about, oh my God, my body is just getting drained of nutrients right now. Fuck knows what I'm going to be feeling like postpartum and when I'm, giving birth, because you have to be fueling yourself well ahead of time for those 9 months and past those 9 months. And it's not just about, okay, can you be managing work in the 9 months? It's about, can you be managing work after the 9 months? So I am setting myself up for work, during the pregnancy experience, but also after the pregnancy experience. I am that far ahead in terms of thinking and in terms of the conversation with my team and the conversation with my fiance, right? We are thinking that far ahead of time so that we don't feel like we're chasing our tails when it comes to that moment. So another thing that some of you have asked me before is like, how do we get back to that feeling of being sexy after you've given birth? If your sensual and sexual and feminine energy practices have not been something that's been well and truly integrated into your day-to-day life, where it's not even something that you think about, you just like do it. If that has not happened before you've fallen pregnant and then not happening during pregnancy, like God knows, is it going to happen when you have a child and you can barely shower by yourself when you are postpartum? That's why in Queen Alchemy, and like really in every program, I'm always saying to my clients and in my one-on-ones, like, great, we have this practice now. How can you be integrating this into your day-to-day life? Because if you cannot integrate this into your day-to-day life, it ain't going to stick. If it is something on the to-do list, it is going to get put off the to-do list. So if something as simple as like, rubbing your body in coconut oil when you come out of the shower and doing it really sensually, if that is not something that is done once a week already, just without even thinking about it, it is not going to be done when you are postpartum, right? If having intimate times and capitalizing on little moments of intimacy with your partner, if that's not done now with no kids, it sure as shit ain't going to be done with kids. So even if you have kids right now and you're like, holy crap, I'm already behind. That's okay. How can you start to integrate it now into your life and prioritize that so it can become something that's integrated where you aren't having to think of it? Think of it like that. So think about also, sorry, I said thinking again. What can you guys start to do now to set yourself up for success in the future? So even if you already have kids or you're already pregnant, okay, well, those kids are going to go into teenagers and like shit's going to be in the fan when they become hormonal. So what can you be doing now so that you don't have this massive cascade effect? For example, maybe it's really rewiring your nervous system so that when they're out partying at 16 and getting drunk and you're getting phone calls, you're not having literally like heart palpitations and like your stress is through the roof because your child is out doing God knows what. You're actually able to really soothe your nervous system and not find that you age 20 years in 3 because you have teenage kids now, because these are real things. And if you can get ahead of them so that it's almost like a contingency plan, so they don't become as stressful, you are going to feel way more powerful, way more at ease, way more in control, and proud of yourself. So the other part of this is that we used to raise children with a village, right? The whole quote of like, it takes a village to raise a child. So we wouldn't even breastfeed alone. We would pass that baby around and other mothers would breastfeed as well. Now it's all on us. And I'm sorry, but like FaceTime does not fucking cut it. We need the village, and women are now trying to do it all alone. We have never been made to do it all alone. Never, ever, ever in the history of history have women raised children alone. There was always a sense of a village. So right now, what needs to be put in place so that that village can start to be formed? In whatever way, shape, or form that looks like for you. In my program, Her, which is out right now, I'm going to get really specific with you guys, and I'm going to be giving you guys heaps of different ways that I'm doing it and different other ways that I could be doing it, but I'm like not for whatever reasons, but other options for you. I'm going to give you guys so many different opportunities and ways for you to start honing in now for setting yourself up for success like that. And I want to say, maybe you don't need to set yourself up for motherhood. You're setting yourself up for birthing a new program or a new business or a new book. Maybe you don't want to be a mom. That's totally fine. But we're always like, as women, we're often birthing something. So if you have this big birthing that's going to be coming in a year's time, you can be swapping out the Her content that will be around like a child for a business or for a book or for a new project, etc. It's really about just having this new thing in your life where your time is now not fully your own. It's also somebody else's. Maybe like, it's the event planning service that you've hired for your book launch, whatever. Like now half your time is also swept up with organizing things with them, for example. It's really about getting ahead so that you can set yourself up for motherhood and value that role of being a mother. Again, we have devalued the feminine role, whether that is being the nurturer, whether it is being the healer, whether it is being, the shoulder to cry on, whether it's being the mother. So many of us have devalued that these days. And what it's causing is that it's causing a lot of isolation for women, and it's causing this depression and anxiety around fully embracing our feminine roles. We constantly feel like when we're, washing the dishes or folding the laundry and doing something quote unquote feminine, that's not enough, that we should be doing something else, that we're not providing enough value. That in and of itself causes us to be second guessing ourselves, leading to anxiety and depression that so many women are struggling with postpartum, because not only are we alone, we're also not valuing what we are doing. We are devaluing ourselves in every moment. So of course you're going to be feeling pretty fucking shitty about yourself and second guessing this whole transition that you're going through and feeling like you're losing yourself because you're not embracing your new self because you don't want to, because there's fear or shame or whatever it is around being quote unquote just a mother. Even if you are just a mother for 3 months, like that's how long your maternity leave is. There are so many women that are devaluing those 3 months to themselves because they are comparing themselves subconsciously, because they don't feel like they're deserving, because they feel like the only way that they are seen as valuable to other people is by their work, for example. So it's like if you have all of these things playing on your mind, that maiden-to-mother journey isn't going to be easy at all. And already that maiden-to-mother journey is a huge, huge leap. And a lot of women, they don't give themselves permission to not say goodbye to things. We live in this modern world. We don't need to let go of everything now to become a mom. Many of us let go because we think we have to and that we can't do it all, right? We devalue our desires as feminine beings because we're trying to do it all by ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to have the support to allow ourselves to be a mom and go pick the berries and go make love with our partner, right? Because we don't have the help that gives us that ease and takes things off the shoulder, off our shoulders, right? And for women who feels like, for the woman that, for those of you that feel like you need to get out and have a girls' night every, couple of weeks just to let loose, we aren't giving ourselves permission to that anymore. Cause it's like, oh, well, now we're a mom. We don't get that privilege anymore. Where it's like, well, you do, because women have a choice. We as women in the modern world, we have a choice. Are you choosing, though, to create the motherhood and the life of your dreams, or are you choosing to be dictated by the fears in your mind around what you should do and have to do as a mom, yet at the same time you're devaluing the role of the mother? So you're in this constant push and pull with being a mom or with birthing something new in your business into the world, right? Or do you feel shame for wanting to have a day alone by yourself? Back in the day when there was a village, there wasn't fucking shame around having a day alone by yourself. There wasn't the fucking mum guilt because we were never expected to do it all by ourselves. But now we are placing these very unrealistic expectations on ourselves and on other women, causing this constant, like, perpetuating cycle of us feeling depressed and anxious and not enough and less than being the feminine beings that we desire to be, right? We can have the motherhood that we desire. We just need to give ourselves permission to still sometimes be selfish, to set things up in the way that suits us, not the way that it suits our friend, not the way that it suits our mum, right? And we need to give ourselves permission to rewrite the story of being a mum, because the story that has been given to a lot of us isn't the story that we want to take on. We live in a modern world. We are modern women. We need to bring back the traditions that actually served us and allowed us to be feminine and allowed us to be fully accepting and embrace this journey of motherhood. And we also need to bring in the gifts that the modern world gives us that they didn't have back then, right? So the modern world allows us to really do it all and have it all if you're doing it the right way. If you're trying to do it all alone, you're not going to make it work, right? It's not going to be able to happen because it's one of you and only 24 hours in a day. But if you can really learn to, not even learn, if you can allow yourself to get ahead and allow yourself to create the motherhood that you want for yourself and for your family and for your partner, then it can happen if you let it and if you are committed to doing the things and putting the things in place to actually making it happen. So right now, that is what I am doing. I'm giving myself permission to be this ahead. I'm creating the motherhood and the story that I want to create. And I don't care who says what or what people believe. This is how I want motherhood to go. And I know it's not going to be perfect. I know that it may change. I know that there may be more expected of me than what I think. But I have a lot of friends that are moms. I've gotten a lot of the real tea on this stuff. I have a lot of clients that are moms, and I've gotten the real tea. And the number one thing that clients do not let themselves do that changes the game for them when they let themselves do it is actually be selfish again. And that permission piece of I'm allowing myself to be selfish only comes when you realize that you can make up the story of how you want to be a mom and what your life of motherhood actually looks like. So if you haven't joined her already, please make sure that you do, because my God, if you want to be a mom, if you are a mom, if you are not a mom, but you're birthing something business, a big business thing in the world, and you feel like your baby is your business, you are going to want to join her. And I want to say her isn't a motherhood program whatsoever. It's just that it's really beneficial for moms because there's so much around doing it all, being her, the time management, the procrastination, the strategies. It's a very, very action-based program. It's not woo-woo. It's not flush. It's not fluff. So if you are really ready to feel completely in your feminine, even when you get the call to lead, then you need to join her. Her is about embodying your feminine in every moment so that you can now confidently feel like you can do it all with ease, without the burnout, and without the mental load. So I'm going to leave the episode there. I hope that you guys have a lovely rest of your day. I hope that you loved the Sex Life series part 1 that we released earlier this week. And we have lots more juicy episodes coming up. So I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Do not forget to read the blog, and do not forget to sign up to my email list because the emails have the juice these days, and they will continue to do so because I'm setting myself up for being a mother. I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much and have a lovely rest of your day.